Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Let's see if propaganda worked on you or if you are up to date with what you're supposed to think. Do you know why in Ukraine or Ukraine cannot have Nazi ideology? Or the government or the military, or no, there can't be elements in Ukraine's government that might have Nazi ideology. Do you know why? No, okay. Now this is how your answer should have been. No, there can't be any that kind of ideology in the Ukrainian government because Zelensky is Jewish. That's the answer, okay? So now you know it. If I ask you a follow-up question, you don't know how to answer it. You're going to keep parroting the same one. Well, I'm not here to debate that. I think that people can, do a lot of things, even things that are sometimes even against their own interest, knowingly or not knowingly. I'm not talking about Zelensky now. But since we talk about this impossibility, because Zelensky is Jewish, I would like to refer you to Mr. George Soros' history while he was in Budapest during Nazi times. And you're going to find out in his own words later how he talks about those times. And Mr. Soros is Jewish. Well, it's a Hungarian philanthropist. That's the correct answer. Mr. Soros is a Hungarian philanthropist. Okay, all right, go and check him a little bit. Just ask those questions to Google, okay, and to the fact checkers. Now, put that aside. I don't really care about that one. But if the first question I asked you, stands, then how is this possible, according to a retired Israeli former general? This is what he says about the current government in Israel. Those are Jewish too. Here it is. This is according to the Telegraph. Israel's actions in West Bank, like Germany, says retired general. How is this possible? How could it be? Given the first answer to the first question I asked. And it's not all of it. I will start reading the article and you're going to see this retired general saying more about what kind of government is in Israel right now. Brace yourselves. According to this guy. Okay? Why? Because the current government is not doing what it's supposed to do by certain interest. That's why it's even called that way. All right. Let's see. This is, it seems like, Amiram Levin said there was, quote-unquote, total in the occupied West Bank. A retired Israeli general and former Mossad spy accused his country's government of, quote-unquote, total apartheid. That's what this guy said, end quote. As he appeared to compared occupied West Bank to Tabaribi, Germany. He appeared. Amiram Levin, who served as commander of the Israeli Army Northern Force and deputy director of Mossad, made the remarks during an interview with the Israeli broadcaster Kan. And I'm quoting, "There hasn't been a democracy there in 57 years. There is total apartheid," end quote, Mr. Levin said, referring to the ongoing Israeli military occupation of the West Bank. And I'm quoting again this former. "It, the army, is standing by, looking at the settler rioters, and is beginning to be a partner to war crimes. These are deep processes," end quote, he added. Israel increasingly faces accusations from human rights groups including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watchdog of imposing on Palestinians in the West Bank, but such criticism from former military commanders or other senior officials are rare. Later in the interview, the former Mossad deputy drew an apparent comparison between Nazi Germany and the situation in the West Bank, which this year has suffered some of the worst Israeli-Palestinian violence in 2 decades. And I'm quoting again this general. Walk around Hebron, and you will see streets where Arabs cannot walk, just like what happened in Germany. End quote. The Jerusalem Post quoted him as saying, referring to the southern West Bank city, where Palestinians live in close quarters with a Jewish settler minority backed by the army. Change of heart. Mr. Levin's comments suggest he has had a profound change of heart on the issue since 2017, when he claimed Palestinians, and I'm quoting, deserve to be occupied, end quote. Danny Danon, a senior figure in Israel ruling Likud party, rejected the claims. And I'm quoting, those who compare us to Germany or the Nazi regime should be examined. I thought it was something else. When he started with eggs, I thought, guy, he said, you know what I mean? Eggs, I thought, oh my God. Israel government vehemently denies the charge of apartheid and has suggested that applying the label to Israel is anti-Semitic. Apartheid was the policy of racial segregation and discrimination enforced by South Africa's white minority government against black people from 1948 to 1991. In recent years, a number of human rights groups, including Israel organizations, have started using the word in the context of the West Bank occupation. Well, what can you do? Let's see what else is here. And it is not the first time a former senior Israeli official hasn't issued an apartheid charge. In 2015, former Mossad chief Meir Dagan said of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and I'm quoting, on the Palestinian matter, his policies are leading to either a binational state or an apartheid state. Well, these are opinions, okay? But this guy, this is the title. This is the title. Well, I don't know if necessary, if you apply those kind of things, you could be called that way, but you have people calling for the guys in power in Israel like that. So then I don't know what to say. I think it's a push from outside. I think the government in Israel doesn't do something that fits the narrative of some interests, and they are under pressure, big pressure. Those organized demonstrations in Israel are not spontaneous demonstrations. It's not how a spontaneous demonstration looks like and continues. That's one of the main, how should I put it, main hints that makes you wonder if these demonstrations are spontaneous and are still there in how many months already. How come they don't escalate? Because the spontaneous demonstration that is left and allowed, to continue, it would lose its boundaries. It's going to escalate. It's going to turn into something bad, like the government will be overthrown and all that. Somehow these demonstrations are kept, which is / controlled, in power in a certain kind of level. They don't pass that. Now you can say, well, they use water and all that, and well, they did, but they still come over and they don't cross that line. They don't yet. So I don't know exactly who controls them, and it's more like a pressure put on Netanyahu and his coalition party. But still, if people get sick of doing this, and I say, what the hell, man? I'm done with this. I'm going home, going to work. Somehow these guys show up almost every day with all those placards and all those flags and whatever that they just had. They just had them underneath their bed, from generations. My friends, let's don't pretend. Now, regarding those guys' methods, regarding Palestine and all that. How should I put it? I had a direct experience with 4 Israeli citizens from Israel. While I was in the mountainside, I like going to mountains and all that. So these 4, there were 3 men and a woman. No friends, no or anything like that. That was very strange. They were over there supposedly, tourists. I say supposedly because, anyway. So I had some conversation with them one night. And I asked them, I mentioned certain names, and I mentioned Chomsky, I mentioned Howard Zinn, and they almost punched me in the face for that. I'm just exaggerating, but they were very upset for me mentioning them or giving it a positive look on the guys, or telling them, well, I think that, no, Chomsky, okay, take it easy. I don't, when I mentioned Norman Finkelstein, that was atomic bomb right there. And then I asked them about the problem over there and how they should solve the issue and what's going on in Israel. And as I said, there were 3 men and 1 woman. With the woman, I didn't speak. I spoke with the 3 guys, politics and social issues and so on. So one was kind of like the chief. He was an excellent guy. He was very self-contained, and he was 30-some. He was very self-contained. He knew a lot of things. He was smart. He was flexible, and he seemed to be the boss of the other 2. He had the highest rank among the 3. That was, they told me, but they were not in the military. They were in the military, but they were not in the military. I didn't push because I was not over there to interview them or interrogate them. I let them speak. I asked questions. They didn't want to go further than that. Didn't push. So one of these guys one was in the middle. One was this guy I can't remember their names. And the third one was the guy that you don't want with an automatic weapon in front of you, not liking you. I didn't like the guy. He was a very extreme guy. For the wrong reasons. I mean, you can be extreme in art, you can be extreme in other things, but no. And when I asked about, hey, what's going on over there with Palestine, with Palestinians, this was this guy's answer. God gave us that land. That's how it's ours, and we're not going to give it to anybody. I said, okay, man, if God gave it to you, then you will never give it back. So that means they will never accept any reasonable, logical conversation about anything about that, because according to this guy, who was, and the other ones were, that was their argument, and they were the document that gave them forever eternal right over those lands. And I said, okay, well, all right. Now I know. Now I understand. By that statement, I understand it can't and it will not be done. And that's it. That was the end of the story. So regarding Zelensky and these guys, look at Soros. Again, look at Soros, Second World War, when he was in Budapest, Hungary, what he did with the Germans. I'm using the word German to be nice, Germans, okay? And his statements regarding those times, he calls them somehow. You can find his statements, okay? He talked about those times in Budapest, how he... Good luck. It's a homework for you. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I'm not saying Zelensky is a Nazi or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this argument that Obama, the first black president, even though he was biracial, 50-50, let's put it this way, still, he was black. Okay, whatever you want. So that means if he was black in his 8 years of rule, there was no racial discrimination or racism or anything like that, because it's impossible. He's the guy over there. Or in the government could not have been because he was black, right? This is the argument with this guy. All right, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.